Like these aren't like sliding Star Wars doors by any means. These are hinge and locked doors. No key cards.
This is a big space. Maybe there's a records place. Let's not break in right now.
Okay. So we'll say that as you guys kind of maybe turn away from the captain's cabin, maybe coming to think that, you know, a little B&E might not be the way to go. This is a pretty stern door. And, you know, the captain's going to see about that stuff. Maybe you go to assess the hull. You know, you see what the helm's like. See if the hull is manageable. See if there's any locked doors you can get in to find treasure, like you said, Vito. As you will turn away to sort of continue your investigation, maybe go find some work. Why don't we have a little break? Why don't we go to a little 5-10 minute break, and whenever everyone gets back, we'll hop back to it.
Fair enough.
Cool. Be back soon. we'll hop to it once Bisan is with us. It seems like everyone else is here.
I'm here.
Oh, everyone's here. Fantastic. Cool. Okay, sweet. So you guys kind of descend. What would you like to do next?
So I still am curious about the technology thing. Would there be like good old-fashioned Batman type vents we can travel through?
It's a great question. I don't think so. No, I don't know why there would be vents. Like, technology isn't very advanced. Like, there's no ventilation system, so to speak.
So how does the magic atmosphere, travel between the ship and nowhere to stop?
And nowhere to stop?
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I just assume there'd be vents because it has to blow that magic air so that people can breathe in space.
Well, so basically, how wild space works is that there's an air envelope that fills out around any body, whether that is like something as small as a butterfly, or as large as a collective ship, or even as large as a bastion or a planet, which is called atmosphere by a planet. And these are sort of like the magic rules of air, is that it has its own atmosphere because of its size. So there was no requirements for ventilation. And I would say like a bastion class ship probably has, it doesn't have its own biome, so it can't create its own atmosphere, so it does need to replenish. But it has an air envelope, so there's no requirements for ventilation.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, and every ship has this. Well, everything has this, actually.
Our next objectives are to assess damage and flight worthiness and find a job.
So would I be able to go into guide them to the lower aspects or lower areas of the ship?
Yeah, you can head down to steerage and cargo, which this thing could take a massive amount of cargo. A little tricky getting there because, like, you know how to get there through stairs, but the lower steerage isn't accessed by. Or actually, it is. No, my apologies. So you just take the stairs down, and you find that it's become something of like it's beginning to become a slum, or sort of a lower steerage, or something like that. Like, you see that all of you would see, like, nobody's been here for very long, but a small economy has popped up. And where there's an economy, there's crime. And not to say that there's a lot of crime around here right now, but you can see sort of the beginnings of, like, people using that massive cargo space down below where there's no light and people don't, the air is not as good and there isn't as much sun. Sort of the dregs of society, those sort of poor people who don't have a lot of coppers to rub together or are here for less reputable means, sort of are beginning to come together and are beginning to sort of set up shelters down here. If you want to do an investigation, Vito, as you go through all the various levels, go right ahead. I'll give you an advantage because you have two seamen to help you out.
$12.
12. You're looking around. There are a couple doors that seem to, like, be locked, and for whatever reason, people can't go in and out of them. And even if you talk to the guards, they're like, "Oh yeah, we tried to get in, but..." they're like country around here. I don't know why I decided they're country. They're like, "No, we tried to get in there, but, well, for whatever reason, they just won't budge. There might be some sort of like air pressure thing. Maybe something got jostled up against the door. No telling. And you're struggling with this as well. Like I said, there's no electricity in here, so it's not like a security computer malfunction. But for whatever reason, there's certain doors that just aren't opening around here, so it's impossible to do a complete and full inspection. But from what you have seen of the ship, Vito, it does not look like a ship that got crashed into another ship. It looks like a fairly space-worthy vessel just from what you've seen. That is to say, you're only seeing like the back half of the ship. The rest of the ship, the front half, is less visible. So maybe the majority of the damage is there, but it's difficult to assess because you can't get through the doors and it's buried under sand, and it would take a great deal of excavation to fully assess those parts. But from what you can examine, it looks space-worthy.
Y'all want to bust down some doors?
I mean,
Can I make
depends
a
on the door.
Go ahead, Bisan.
Can I make a check? And I don't know if this would just be a general knowledge check or whatnot, but are the Archons known for like just taking random shit and moving it around? Like if what this is going to take is enormous excavation, is it something that I feel like we could recommend trying to find Githzerai? I don't know, like, do the Githzerai have groups of people that go in and do big excavations?
Given your background, it's D&D. I'm gonna make you roll.
No, that's fine.
Why don't you make me?
Yeah.
I was more talking to myself than you, being like,
Okay.
I was gonna just make me maybe a history check. Let's call it a history check about your people and what they're.
I think that's going to be a 19. Let me check I think I've got a +1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a 19.
Okay, 19. Your people are, like, short of the Illithid, are probably the most capable psionic race out there, period. Not the Durgar, not the Drow, not the fucking Deep Gnomes, whatever. It's probably the Gith. And that being said, even amongst Gith, like, there's Githyanki and Githzerai. Githyanki are very sort of live and die by the sword. They're very, very warrior. Whereas your people are very meditative, very connected to the psionics, to the multiverse, the astral sea. So they, like an Archon, even a single Archon could probably excavate this entire ship by himself because they are of such significant psionic power. Getting an Archon here out to do this there's no way. An Archon would never do this.
I was
because
thinking smaller group of people.
Or a smaller group of Githyanki. I think a smaller group of Githzerai couldn't. It'd take a significant number of Githzerai to come together to do this. Short of an Archon, bless you. So yeah, there are psionic powers that could, it depends on the mastery of the psionics, of course. So it is possible, but it's just not what the Githzerai do. Like, the Githzerai have the chaos stuffs of limbo, and they can, like, they don't need to excavate, they don't need to shape, they don't need to salvage. They have the chaos stuffs of limbo to make whatever they want. So where they have the power, there's very little chance you could influence. There's nothing to barter with them with. You know what I mean? There would be no reason for them to come out here.
Okay.
Yeah. Githyanki, however, big slave force. Anyway. So yeah, there's your ship assessment. Ship looks to be made of stern stuff, but doors don't want to open for most of it.
What are the chances? I mean, you said this is like nobody's watching out here. What are the chances?
Yeah, down to
of
these
us,
lower levels, a little less attended.
What are the chances?
Yeah, down
of
to these
us,
lower levels, a little less attended.
What What are the chances of us successfully busting a door down? I mean,
You can
'cause
always give it a shot.
better than nothing.
Make me an athletics check.
Um, Bisan is the strength character here, right?
I think both Varsh and Bisan have the same strength score.
I'm not very strong.
Oh,
So
Varsh kind of like takes a few steps back and is just gonna try and kick it down.
Okay,
can I
make me an
can I
athletics.
can I give him bardic inspiration for this?
Sure. So it's a d6, I believe, at this level. So Varsh, you may throw a d6 on top of that if you wish.
And you have advantage on the d6 because of my class.
Cool.
Advantage on the d6 because of
That'll
your class.
be 19 then total.
Total of 19. You kick it as hard as you fucking can. Maybe you slam your shoulder into it a couple times. You're starting to understand why maybe these doors aren't guarded or they're not looking out for anybody to see if they can make it their way through. This thing is not opening, at least for not that score.
Would you care to take a swing at this, Bisan? Or
where's
Chaplin, I
Cha-
suppose.
Oh, yeah, what the hell's Chaplin doing here? My bad. Go ahead, Basan.
I'll give Bisan guidance. I should have given that to myself, but I forgot.
Oh, I forgot you had guidance. My bad. Me to
Based on what the guard said, do I have the idea that someone's going to be terribly angry if I get this door open? Because they said they'd tried to get it open, but that it was just jammed.
I think, I mean, insight check.
19.
19.
Okay.
Well, I think there's, for 19, I think there's two schools of thought. I think there's one school of thought that's like, yeah, hey, fuck off, you're breaking our shit. Or the reaction could be, great, thanks for breaking that down, it's ours now. Or whatever's on the other side is ours now, you know what I mean? That's probably the two schools of thought around here, because, like, you're in this place that they intend to scavenge and scuttle and settle into, and you'd be either doing the work, either way, you'd be doing the work for them.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, they've claimed this as their salvage.
No. But we can go back now. Bisan will stand up and just look at the two of you. I'm not doing it.
Why not?
We can discuss it once we've gone elsewhere.
My tools, I don't want my tools to go to waste after I've already busted them up. Can I try this door with my tools?
Kind of
Sure, give it a shot.
Sorry.
You realize that whatever's
Okay, go ahead,
behind
Varsh.
I was kind of look around like, no one's watching us or eavesdropping, right?
Make a perception check.
That one.
Nope. You're pretty sure no one's listening.
And Bisan is going to go straight out and say whatever's beyond that door will be claimed. And there will be a fight the moment you get it open. Assuming you can get it open. This is a bad idea.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We'll move on then.
I suppose it would be a damn shame if the dude of ownership is behind the door.
If it is, then we come back tactically.
So I will say, yeah, nobody really rolled terribly well on their how ownership works checks. Bisan, did you roll
I did not.
for that? Do you want to give it a shot?
Sure.
All right, go for it.
No. It's a 3 on the dice. I don't know what my
Okay.
modifier is, but not that good.
Well, there's a good chance the captain knows because he owns a ship, so you'll. So maybe you could ask him if you're curious. But yeah, you head out. But you've completed one of these jobs you've been asked to complete, assessed its space worthiness, and from what you've been able to see, it indeed is. From what you've been able to see, which bodes
Space-worthy,
well.
buried.
Yep, space worthy, probably with a big P on the front of that. Is there anything else you'd like to do?
The last task was to find a job.
All right. Let's see if you guys can find some work. All right. I'll just put this to a little check here. Up to Jesus, I just got vetoes everywhere, man. You guys are all over the place. Why don't we call this either a, and all of you can roll. Everyone can get a check, and we'll see if everybody gets a job or not, or finds a job or not. Make me an investigation or insight check. It is your choice. Ooh, no. I'll take it back. I'm going to change that. Let's call it, I used to do insight. I think it's better if we do persuasion, get that charisma working. Charisma is a good way to get a job. So let's do persuasion or investigation.
$16 on investigation.
Okay.
24 on investigation or persuasion.
Persuasion, very nice.
12 on investigation.
12 on investigation, okay. Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to go from bottom to the top, essentially, here. I'm just going to kind of zoom out. I'm not going to go to where each of you find your work, but let's see. You guys kind of... Pride and Conquer, let me think here. Let's do this the fun way. So roll me a d10.
Two.
2. Okay. Cool. This fits with what I was thinking about. Okay, you like, yeah, I'm representing, Captain Lunarbow of the New Dawn Space Galleon, blah, blah, blah. And you are able to, you more like read about it somewhere, but on the, it's technically a planet, on the planet of Garden, which is sort of like a, well, you don't know much about what Garden is, it just says on the plate, Garden. There's a distress signal that came from sort of an orrery, from a stranded ship, sort of stranded near that planet, and they need help. They're under attack by pirates. So rescue from Garden. Pirates.
All right.
Pirates. Oh. So that's what yours is. I'm gonna say, and then the reward is where the your checks come into play here. So I'm gonna say, I don't want to give you guys solid numbers because I'm still working out how much I should be paying a whole crew of people to do a sort of Spelljammer sort of thing here. Let me think here. For Space Galleon, that's like a crew of 20. Say every person earn like a nice. The reward for that one is 600 gold pieces. Guess I changed my mind midway. Okay, next. Who's next up the count? Varsh. Go ahead and roll me a d10.
10.
10. All right, let's see what you get. Okay. You hear from some of the merchants here that there is a strange space anomaly. There's a gravitational anomaly that has been detected like in the region, and it poses a danger to passing merchant ships. So your employer would like to hire out your crew to neutralize the anomaly before it causes more damage to sort of shipping lanes here in realm space. Anomaly. Spell. Anomaly. And the reward for that is 800 gold pieces. It is nearby. Last but not least, seemingly already putting the good work in, joining the crew. Vito, if you'd be so kind, roll me a d10.
Let's see. 10.
Roll again.
2.
Roll a d8 instead, because that's the 2 quests that I just gave out.
Okay.
The chances.
6.
There we go. All right, 6. So 6 plus 1 is 5. Ooh, I like this one. This one's actually pretty interesting, Vito. You're kind of like maybe. I don't know. I'll ask you. Where do you think Vito goes to look for work? Do you go to your old restaurant, to your old bistro, or do you like leave the ship because you can't stand it and you want to go to like sort of these like outskirt little huts?
I'd probably definitely avoid the restaurant area. I might actually go over to the huts, or like there's like shit. I would assume there's like ships that land every so often. Yeah, I'd probably be asking people as they land instead.
All right, you find crews as they approach, and you approach different captains, different crew members, and you come to this one crew that's a little shaken up, and this one's actually a really cool one. So give me half a second here. I'm gonna roll a little identity for this ship that you're about to hear about. Okay. You hear about this crew that's like, we were set apart by the Gender Sunstar. It's a ghost ship, you see. A hammerhead of great size. But the entire crew, they're not alive any longer. I'd recommend you stay away from... let's see what planet. Sure, let's say there. It says, we were out by the moon of Selune, and it came upon us. We only managed to get out by the skin of our teeth. We're here for repairs, actually. We're just trying to get as far away as possible, you see. I wouldn't recommend going out there. They say that its hull is full of plunder, but it's just not worth it, friend. It's just not worth it. And the whole crew's all shucking up. And the more you're like, okay, let's hear about this ship. And you go asking around about this ship. And yeah, the legends tell that it's like this old ship that's crewed by the dead, and it's this horrible ghost ship. But you know, the legends tell that it has taken plunder from dozens, if not hundreds, of ships, and anyone who would take that ship would surely find themselves quite wealthy afterward.
So does this ship roughly stay in the same area, or is this something like we should act on now?
Well, the lucky news is that your ship employs not one but 2 oars, and having these oars on board allows you to track things a little easier, but you have their last known location, so it's quite possible you could track it down. If your crew meant to hunt it, that is. But maybe, who knows, maybe Vito doesn't want to go hunting a ship and might keep it to themselves. It's entirely up to you.
I mean, out of character, I think there are more pressing matters than ghost ships. But I will still share this with my crew so that they at least know what I've gleaned from searching.
Understood. Okay, so you guys all come together with Lunar Bow. You all sort of sit down. You see that, like, as you come back, Vito, you do see your thing is being hauled onto a ship. Your flat top, it's being hauled onto a nearby ship, and Lunar Bow like shakes the hand of someone nearby, sort of with a small grimace. He doesn't know that he's displaying. Hand over a bag of coins, as he is investing in you, and it seems to be flown up to the visible space galleon up above. And he sort of returns, and you guys all find maybe like a curb to sit on, or somewhere in the dunes to stand on, so as not to force this ship onto Vito any longer. And you all stand around. You guys talk about the various leads you've got. The captain will talk about the Starlight and says, well, I can say that the governor here hasn't come across any sort of deed. They just sort of found the place and have sat upon it. So there is a price they're willing to sell it for, but it's not a price that I'm certainly willing to pay, nor capable of. And especially not considering the amount of armaments this ship would require and repair. And we'll hear about uses, and the number of Spelljammer helms we'd have to acquire is substantial. But it could be a worthy investment if we could get it starborn, and there's certainly enough people around here to hire to excavate this place. But we'll work on maybe legal ownership. We could certainly bring this to the government of the country if we wanted to force the issue.
I have an idea.
Yes?
I don't understand how it works, but you said there would be a deed, and Vito said it was owned by a company before the war.
Yes.
Would there be records?
Admittedly, it's entirely possible, but I knew the previous owners, but I'd have no clue how or where to find them, and only they would know where their records are stored, if not on their persons. And frankly, if these people haven't found the records or any sort of deeds or anything, then there's little chance we'll find them. They have much more resources than us. So we'll keep our ear to the ground. It seems to be the way of the world right now. So who knows, maybe if we... I don't know. Let me think on it for a time. This is clearly not going anywhere, so we can come back. But I think the most pressing issue, if we mean to claim this place, is the number of Spelljammer helms we would need to acquire. 11. That's no small amount of... Well, 10 supporting staff, and then the 11th being the main Spelljammer helm.
We have one, Captain.
That is quite right. That is quite right. I haven't sold that yet. So 10. Still a substantial number. I'd much rather plunder them than have to purchase them.
I have a suggestion.
Let's hear it.
What if we were to just you apparently know how to get. Maybe you don't. My brain's not working right now. You know at least the company who owned this. If we were to get a hold of them, perhaps they would provide us with a finder's fee for finding the wreckage of their ship.
That's true. It's worth negotiating. I guess my only the trick is that, well, sort of like looks you on says, Law, the crystal sphere that Law came from, it's very far from realm space. I'm truly baffled by how your ship managed to come out here. Unless, like, you don't have any memories, are you sure you didn't happen to steer it in this direction? I mean, we are probably months away from where it was originally located, even by cruise speed.
Truth be told, I am a little bit of a coward. When prior to crashing the ship, I put myself in standby mode, so I wouldn't have to experience that, so to speak.
I see. So it is possible that you flew it in this direction. I don't know. The Astral Sea is a very strange and interesting place. Anything could have happened. Who knows? You could have... Kandori could have... A part of Kandori could have been flying by and decided that it was part of them and brought you here, or some celestial body knocked you in this direction. Who knows? But I'm just shocked that it's here. I'll keep my ears to the ground. This is, of course, the celestial triangle of the Astral Sea, the Kryn space, realm space, and gray space. But it's possible they're around, but it's also possible they still remain in the elven territories of the crystal spheres. I'll keep an ear out, is what I'm trying to say, but I'd be surprised if we ran into them. Well, anyway, on to other matters. Maybe we collect Spelljammer helms, and in the meantime I'll see if I can't sleuth out some business options to procuring this significant haul. But in the meantime, the jobs you brought up... Sorry, yes, go ahead, Bisan.
Did we want to speak with the Scro prisoners before determining which job we wanted?
I don't see why we can't do that along the way to whatever our next job is. Well, as much as I appreciate the good work there, Garden is quite a far ways away. It is way back in the outer rim of the way, and for a 600 gold piece reward compared to how close the others are for more, perhaps that one should be skipped, I'm sorry to say. They will have to find other rescuers. The anomaly one is interesting. I admit I don't know how many skilled arcanists we have on our ship capable of reversing a gravitational anomaly, but it could just be some sort of strange astral bodies worth considering. I admit, hunting a ghost ship does sound like fun.
Doesn't it?
And if we could take the ship, that's another Spelljammer helm for us. As dangerous as it is. And as and I have heard stories about the amount of gold it has on its store, more than the 800 we would get from the anomaly. We could try and do both.
Well, what about the pirates that are going after that village? I mean, if they're that small time, wouldn't it be easier to take their Spelljammer?
It's far away.
It's true, but it's far away, and more than just taking the Spelljammer helms, especially if we're not considering selling them. I do need to keep up with paying my crew, and for a 600 reward for probably a 10-12 day journey there, another 10, 12 back, it just doesn't economically make much sense. There's more money to be made elsewhere, and I'm sure there are other mercenaries who have to be able to pick up that job a little smaller time.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
He sort of looks like a little uncomfortable as he says that. Like he's ex-military, and I think the passive insight here for anyone above 10 is like, it's very clear. Like, he's ex-military, all of you are ex-military, and I think all of you sort of feel the discomfort of being like, someone's in trouble, it's just not economically the way to go. And you can see the captain's trying to force himself into this sort of mercenary attitude of like profit over morality in some cases, because that's not what we're here for anymore. And it makes him uncomfortable, but he's trying to lead the charge in that mindset, because that's what everyone signed up for.
Well, I'll
Would we be able to break even?
Go ahead, Varsh.
I'll admit that as far as the anomaly goes, I'm not someone particularly capable of dealing with things like that. A ghost ship, on the other hand, well, I know how to swing a blade.
So does everyone else aboard this ship. We are all war veterans, after all. We're more meant for combat than we are for arcane astral anomalies. And Varsh, you are our astral expert, so I will take your recommendation. If you think that's not the way to go, then perhaps it's time that the New Dawn proved its worth against a more daring vessel.
Should we not speak with the captain of the ship that told me of this ghost ship and ask him what actions he took against the ship to be better prepared?
I would say that you would have done that as part of your research, Vito. And I could fill you in on that. So they basically ran, plain and simple. They saw the ship, they identified it, and knew the stories, and they tucked tail and ran in fear, and were attacked on the way out, but they managed to get away.
So they don't know, because I mean, I don't know, and I'm not sure Vito would know, being a chef, how fighting a ghost ship would go, as far as through ship means and boarding a ghost ship. Like, could it just become ethereal at some point, and then we just start floating off into sea? And I'd be fine, but
that is the trick, isn't it? The captain says, Captain Lunarbow says, well, that's the trick, isn't it? I guess he says. It says, well, I guess the whole point of battling a ghost ship is taking the gambit that, the bards like to accentuate their ghost stories, and that it's not actually a ghost ship, and that whatever we mean to deal with is truly physical. I mean, I've never come upon a ship that could enter the ethereal plane.
If there is plunder on the hull, in the hull, the ship has to be corporeal.
Exactly.
And if there's crew standing aboard that ship, unless they be ghosts, they need wood to stand upon. So, I guess it's a bit of a gamble, but I have faith in our Spelljammer that, should it be more than we can handle, she can get us out. And perhaps Mr. Voidlight here and his powers of orrery might be able to help us detect, certain information about the ship before we engage too hostily.
I think Songquo is probably better at it than I am, but thank you for your high expectations.
With the 2 Spelljammer helms, could we have 2 look?
2 what, sorry?
Well, we have the... No, sorry. I got confused. Never mind.
That's alright. Okay, well, I think it's worth taking up with the crew. I don't want this to be solely my decision. But I definitely lean towards the ghost ship, because we don't have the arcane expertise to deal with the gravitational anomaly, and Garden is quite far away for the minimal reward. And we also have those Scrow to interrogate, who might have leads for us as well. So, let's see what we can do. Is there anything else you all want to do here at the bistro, or shall we make our way back up to the galleon?
Do we have supplies, sufficient supplies to feed us all the way there, etc.?
We do. We stocked a couple days ago, and being in the air envelope, we should our air should be fresh.
What are the weapons on our current ship?
Standard space galleon set, 2 ballista and a mangonel.
Is that something we might want to look at upgrading while we're here?
I would love to, but unfortunately, we are a very new ship, and it costs money to purchase siege weaponry.
Fair enough. You know your coffers better than I. So.
But you're open to the idea.
Of course. I'll never say no to arming our ship so we can take better, ships. I heard that the dwarves have been working on something for some time, very fascinating, called a cannon. I always wanted to see one of those. I also, I don't want to get your hopes up too much, but there is a crystal sphere that is accessible through the the celestial triangle. It's supposed to be technologically advanced, and is said to have ship armaments that are a little more superior. I believe it's called Hero Space, perhaps, or Great Space. I'll have to look into that. But yes, be assured I have every intention of equipping our ship with an even better arsenal. One day, when we have the coin.
What about the hull? Do you think that it's sufficiently set for attack or fight against a potential ghost ship?
I believe so. Our bosuns have repaired it quite well.
Are there any upgrades that we can afford? I just want to make sure we're best set to go up against this ship that has apparently destroyed many others.
I understand your anxiety, Vito, but this ghost ship has not met the New Dawn and her crew.
Yes, I'll do my best to at least feed you an excellent last meal, if it comes to that.
If it comes to that. Such doom and gloom, no faith. Alright, so let's get going. And with that, he will take Chaplin with him, or Chaplin will have gone on the other ship to just, ensure transportation, and with a cast of a teleport, because apparently his stat block gets a couple of those. You guys pop back up to the New Dawn and leave the wreckage of the Starlight Bistro behind, and leave that as a potential business avenue for another day. You find yourselves on the ship, in which Spelljammer Laradi Suthra approaches you all, this beautiful sort of, I think I said she was half-elven blonde woman. She sort of approaches, says, "Captain, I see we have a new recruit." He goes, "Yes, this is Vito. Remember the Starlight Bistro down in the Elven sector?" He goes, "Yes." He goes, "Well, he worked there, and that's what we just set upon." He goes, "Oh. So we have a new cook." She goes, "That explains the big slab of whatever that was that you had dropped off." He goes, "Yes, so we should have a good meal about us. But Spelljammer, you may return to your duties, and I will address the crew." He goes, "Oh, okay, very good. More work, Captain?" And he says, "Hopefully so." And he'll sort of rally the crew, in which, Vito, you find yourself surrounded by a menagerie of different races of spacefaring creatures. You see, alongside of Varsh, another Hadozi, a large Gif, a giant hippopotamus-like creature, a number of sort of insectoid, four-armed humanoids, thri-kreen, and no small number of elves, being the elven armada that sort of makes up the bulk of the race that inhabits this ship. There's also a Toril who seems to come up to Varsh and says, "Mr. Voidlight, how is the trip down to the surface?"
We went down expecting to find treasure or maybe even explore the depths of a ruined ship, and we found a cook.
She sort of looks at you with like attempted to be restrained disappointment. It's hard not to. And she goes, "Well, I bet it's a really good cook."
The captain seemed pleased. Really, aside from that, we did get a job. We're looking for a ghost ship.
Oh, how interesting. I'll have to get the details from the captain. At which point the captain will sort of let out a louder address as the crew's assembling. He says, "Crew of the New Dawn, I have unfortunate news, to be followed by good news, to be followed by even better news. We went down and we were expecting a wreckage with heaps of gold and treasure and prospects for salvage, but unfortunately we were beat to the punch. It seems that the local government has already claimed it as their salvage operation. The good news is that we have certain leads that may intrigue us to potential upgrades in the future, and I shall leave it at that so as not to stoke too much excitement in a possible venture. And alongside that possible venture came with us not only a new friend, but a new cook, to which you hear sort of through the crew the sort of blubberings of a dwarf going, "What you mean a new cook? You're not proper responsible for what goes on under the galley." And everyone just kind of like looks blankly at each other. You hear a couple of like, what the fuck did he say? And Lunarburg goes, yes, we'll address that later, sir. But in the meantime, for the even better news, we have a couple of leads, my crew, so I would like to put them to you. First of which is a rescue mission to the planet of God and way in the outer reaches of the Crystal Sphere. Very far away for a small reward. The crew sort of, Captain Sex, a gradual C2 for a slightly better reward. A sort of arcane academic required skill set. Who's sort of still sort of, and it says, but alas, there is a ghost ship by the moon of Selune over Toril to hunt this ghost ship and defeat it. It is said to have a whole great and magnificent treasure within it. It is a ghost ship by the name of the Jandra Sunstar. And there's sort of some excitement, but some nervousness from the crew. Crewmen, gentlemen, ladies, do I hear fear from these war veterans who fought the Scrow so bravely? Do I hear fear from a crew of such brave soldiers because of the musings of a bard? Let's be honest with ourselves now. It is indeed perhaps crewed by the dead, but who's to say these dead are not but skeletons that shamble like in small dungeons? There's sort of like a says, and who's to say this ghost ship just isn't simply in need of better sails, and it's a patchwork job? There's another little says, I warned you all. Remember, this ship, this crew avoided a nautiloid. The famed fear of the astral sea, the mind flares we escaped from. If the danger is too pressing and this ship can indeed vanquish itself in and out of space and time like a ghost that it claims to be, do you not have faith in your Spelljammer that we can evade the danger and simply go have another one of these other jobs of languid proficiency aboard the ship. But is there not faith that this ship does not have the power, the armaments, and surely the courage and martial stuff to face down any challenge and make a legend for ourselves on these astral seas? He's gonna roll a little persuasion check. My man rolls good on his persuasion checks. And the crew sort of, yeah, they all sort of come around to it. And he draws his mace, brings it to the air as it glows with an astral light. And he says, I bid you, crew of the New Dawn, muster your courage, for we kill ghosts. And there's sort of like a, and they all draw their swords and let out a big sort of war cry, hurrah, as the New Dawn and its crew seems to be committed to claiming a ghost ship for their legend. And says, and he sort of puts away his mace, and he says, let's get this ship in order. We got a ghost to hunt. And everyone's sort of, yeah, and they all pat themselves on the shoulder. They all run around with excitement. They start pulling the rigging. The Spelljammer, with the great excitement, begins to make their way to the helm. And it seems that the crew agrees, or at least that the captain's able to persuade for the bigger reward, supposedly bigger reward. And your ship is due for Selune, the moon of Toril, soon enough. As you have boarded the ship, is there anything you would like to do?
If Bisan
Check
can
out that galley.
Got it, Vito. Yeah, we'll come to you in a second, Bisan. So, Vito, you said you wanted to check out the what?
The galley?
Yep, the galley. You head over, you're shown the way to the galley, and you find yourself in, regrettably, a very small workspace where there is this sort of bandana dwarf, the individual who spoke earlier, this like old fucking dwarf, who barely speaks common. And you sort of find yourself inside. You also see, I'm not going to put it in there because it's too goddamn big, sort of like stuffed into the galley. It barely fits, but clearly like some stuff has been moved out to make space, but your flat top has been pushed in to be used. And the cook looks at you and goes, so you're supposed to be the new cook, or you mean to replace my spot on the ship? You didn't know how many ships are fair in these unhuman waters, you wee gnome.
What?
Goes, oh, you don't reckon you know what object? And at this point, it gets even more incoherent. You just kind of stand there and then some spittle sort of like tick, 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 on your like metal face. At which point the captain sort of, or we'll say the Spelljammer's closer at hand, says, Mr. Bralag, getting along with your fellow cook, I assume? He sort of grumbles, goes, Spelljammer. That's good. I don't know if yelling makes the flavor better. What do you think, Vito? Does yelling make the flavor better?
Some of his spit drops below my silver mustache, and it says, not fit for consumption. I would say not.
Yeah, it's like, not fit for consumption. She kind of like does like a little like, wasn't expecting, and you're like, no, listen, no, I don't think so. And you go, right, so play well with others. And she heads out, and the dwarf kind of like, very territorial, stubbornness of dwarves, kind of looks at you at this like, oh, fine. He kind of goes to like peeling potatoes and kind of, you might have to win him over.
I'll ask him what's for dinner tonight.
Stew. Dwarven traveler stew.
What? All right. Would you like help with that at all?
Fine, see what you could possibly contribute.
Where are your ingredients at? What do we have? What are we working with?
Yeah, you start looking around. You see the place is fairly well stocked. There are some spices and such that probably could be added if you were able to sort of requisition that with the captain, who would tell you that he does function as both captain and quartermaster here. He's happy to work up close and personal with the crew. And you got good stuff. There's another set of cooking utensils in here, which will have to remain on the ship, but there is. And you look at the stew, and it's a decent stew. It's got vegetables and meat in it, and it'll do the job, but you might be able to make it better. Go ahead and roll me, let's call it intelligence plus proficiency, as I think you're proficient with cooking utensils, yeah?
I am. So intelligence plus proficiency?
That's right. And if you have a intelligence skill you're proficient in, you can just roll that instead, if that's easier.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Let's see. Plus proficiency, so 20 flat, not natural.
20 flat will do the job. You head over there, you open it, you're like, all right. And your little mustache tells you something about it and what you could do to improve and what spices you have here. You start going in there. Maybe you sort of like bob out a couple of the ingredients that could be cut a little finer to release the taste a little bit more. And the dwarf sort of watches over your shoulder judgingly as you go to work. And a couple adjustments later, and the aroma definitely improves. And not adding or subtracting nutritional value, but certainly improving the taste, which will go well for morale.
Excellent.
He's sort of like, he looks very sour, this dwarf.
I mean, I want to know how long he's been cooking those vegetables, because that's a big killer in soups, overcooking the vegetables.
Yeah, it's a little, the vegetable's a little overcooked, maybe, like not intensely, but a little overcooked.
I mean, some people like that rancid flavor, but like once it gets past a couple hours, it's not the same. It's not the same flavor at all.
Yeah, you don't get the sense it's been in there quite that long. It's okay. He's not a complete fool. He's he knows his stuff, but maybe not as well as you.
All right, fair enough.
All right, and with that, he does his best to sort of like butt in and try and serve as much of it as possible, trying to claim ownership for the stew a little bit. And they're like, some of the crew members are like, "What happened, Brawlag? It seems that your skill has improved twice-fold since your new companion joined the crew." And he goes, "I ain't nothing to do with it. I did some small pointers perhaps, but just eat your fucking stew." And he like stomps off. And some people attribute the success to him, but the vast majority of the crew sort of like looks at you and is like, okay, the food's significantly better the day he joined. It's probably him. Incredible. Bisan, what did you want to do? Mute. Still can't hear you.
I actually reconsidered, but thank you.
Okay, no problem. Varsh, is there anything for you, my friend?
I guess I'll consult the orrery.
All right, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is what you need to do now to set a course. You head over to the orrery, and you and Songquo look at the orrery. I'm still working on what check I think I think we're gonna stick with like an investigation or perception check, because you are sort of like looking around as it splays out that star map before you, kind of like picking through, finding the constellations, and Songquo will sort of guide you through finding Selune. Make me a investigation or perception check at advantage.
I shall cast guidance on myself as well for the D4.
Fair enough.
Okay, investigation, perception, advantage. 11. I did not roll very well, even with advantage.
11. You're having a little trouble here, but it's not too hard. You know it's a moon of Toril, and you have a little trouble finding Toril, but you know it's a planet, and you're like, is it this one? She's like, no. And you're like, is it this one? She's like, yes. And you're like, yeah, I wasn't guessing. And you're able to pick it out, but you're getting used to the aura. You're getting used to like understanding how it displays information. And you find your destination, and with Sungkwo's help, you're able to pinpoint that sort of like blinking dot, and you pinpoint it, and you guys sort of have your target, what you assume to be your target, picked. And you can, and with that, Sungkwo says, "Excellent. Please go tell the Spelljammer of our current course."
Yes, ma'am. And I tap the foot of tap the deck twice with my foot and say, "Course is set. Ready for Selune."
Incredible. You head over, and you feel the ship sort of, as you say that, almost on cue, the ship begins to lurch as you hear the belly of the ship sort of, the wood creak and lurch as it exits the gravity plane, the envelope, the atmosphere of this planet, and you leave this little halfling planet behind as you begin to make your way to Selune. And you, my good friend, oh no, I don't have Roll20 open. What the heck? It's not going to be quite the journey it took to get to this planet. Selune is much closer to where you are than the previous ship, and you guys move 10,000 miles a day, so you're pretty quick. So you guys will be going from Anadia to Toril.
Would my piloting skills help us get there faster?
Well, unfortunately, no. Because okay. You are a. But so there's the thing too, and I think the captain should explain that to you. So as you're done serving food, the captain will come to you and say, "So Vito, I want to let you know how things work on this ship. Everyone here is skilled, and everyone here is very proficient, and I want this to be more than just a captain, his ship, and her crew. I want this to be a place where we may all learn to be better, and maybe one day you might have a ship of your own, or you might take some members of this crew and go to another ship. And basically what I want every crew member to do is to decide what role they fit in best and begin to work. You know, certain necessities will be required from everybody, but I want everybody to get the chance to learn what they're proficient at. So Vito, I know you were a cook, but you were on a ship for a long time. Where would you say your skills on a ship lie?"
Well, it might not seem it, what with the crashed ship, but I would say my point on the ship would probably be the pilot seat.
It would be fitting that the New Dawn's second piloting understudy would be another understudy who crashed their first ship. Very funny. Very funny, very funny. I'm sure the Spelljammer will get a kick out of that. So, if that's the case, Vito, you are most certainly welcome to speak to the Spelljammer. She already has a single understudy by the name of Yesinia that you might meet. But when you are not cooking, by all means, go to her, and she will instruct you on how spelljamming works. And perhaps we'll see about procuring a couple personal vehicles, because we're acquiring quite a few number of proficient spelljammers, and I would like to get you all out and experienced in combat.
Fair enough.
So any questions about your station here on the ship, what's responsible for, your requirements?
I will do my best to serve you the best food possible.
Glad to hear it. Fantastic. Well, good to have you aboard, Vito. At which point you will head over to the Spelljammer helm. You see that the Spelljammer helm is positioned inside of the quarters of the Spelljammer herself. It's not unusual for collective ships. And she is sitting on what looks to be almost like an elven-like throne with certain sort of rod-like articulations for the armrests, with a runic glow underneath on the floorboard where the piloting happens. And you see, where are you? You see this astral elf individual, a little, oh, that is your senior sitting in there, standing next to the Spelljammer, who is this sort of mage-like blonde half-elf. There is an astral elf with red hair and just kind of like a spacefaring sort of fairly nice, somewhat nicer garb, but nonetheless traveler's garb, sort of standing next. The Spelljammer says, the Spelljammer Suthra. She says, "Mr. Vito, what can I do for you?"
The captain has sent me. He's asked me my particular skills on the ship, and we don't need to stuff our faces at all times. So my other skills pertain the realm of piloting ships. He told me to come speak to you.
I see. Piloting. Do you mind if I ask what your experience level is?
Very slight. I have crashed a ship before.
Yesenia lets out this this nervous, sort of awkward yelp. And the Spelljammer kind of does one of these. And looks at you and says, "You crashed your first ship." And
it floated in the what's that word? The vicinity
Astral
of the astral sea. It floated just fine until I took hold of it and crashed it into a Skrull ship. But it was intentional crashing. So
intentional crashing. She says as she looks at the other Spelljammer, who kind of looks a little as you get the sense that maybe their crash was not intentional, and says, "And have you flown a ship since?"
With time being relative, it's been very soon or very recent since I've last flown a ship, considering I've been off the entire time after the fact.
I see. Well, never fear. Crashing has its own merits, and we all do it from time to time. Not me, of course. I'm really good at this. But sometimes it's necessary. And there is no worries there, Vito. We'll be very happy to have you as an understudy. I've been talking to the captain about trying to procure some personal vehicles and maybe giving you some experience in that realm. But by all means, would you like to experience cruise speed?
Absolutely. Let's do this. There's nothing to crash into, right?
No, not yet. Don't worry. If we drop out of cruise speed, I'll take the reins for the time being. But considering your first experience was, going from floating to crashing, maybe we should see what it feels like to be at a greater speed. She puts her hand out, and you would know that this is how a 2-minute transfer works on Spelljammer helms. Do you touch her hand?
Yeah, if that's what is happening, I'll take her hand.
Yep. You touch her hand, and you swap places in the chair. And as you sit down, you feel the familiar sensation of the last time you were in a Spelljammer helm. That feeling of pins and needles all over your body. Even despite the fact that your bodies consist of metal, you feel the sensation. Not in the uncomfortable Charlie horse kind of way where you can't move, but still that sort of tingling, not quite comfortable sensation sort of takes over your entire body. And much like the last time you were on the ship, and perhaps part of the reason why it was the only thing you could think to do was crash was that the momentous side of the bastion was a lot of weight, and it was a lot to look through. But this collective is a lot more manageable. It's a smaller ship, and your consciousness can span to anywhere on the ship as if you were looking off at any point of the ship, whether it be on the side of the ship, in the ship. You could spy on any part of the ship at any time that you wished. And more than that, you can steer it, and you hold it in cruise speed as you move 100 million miles by your will. And you feel all of these sensations return to you, but with the added element of, steering a much smaller, more manageable ship, and with momentous 100 million mile speed.
So how would gravity work? Because I know one of the skills that I can do is do a barrel roll. If I were to attempt a barrel roll right now,
do you want to attempt a barrel roll right now in cruise speed?
Do I know enough? Would I know enough to know whether or not it's gonna flip people off of the ship?
Got it. That one there's no rule for because you were aboard a ship for a long time and would have been. Or actually, no. I think go ahead and roll to see how gravity works on ships because you were on a bastion, which is different.
Right.
Make me a. This is such an interesting question. I guess nature check to sort of understand, just like gravity, the nature of gravity.
13.
13. You're on a ship long enough. I'll give it to you. Essentially, how every ship works is that it has a gravity plane. There is here's how I'll display it to you. No, you can't see that too well. So here's the air envelope that surrounds the ship, and this is the ship. It's not a 1-to-1, so bear with me. The ship sits in the middle, and the air envelope extends from its back and its front the length of the entire hull, and that is sort of the length of the air envelope. This big oval that surrounds the ship, and where the ship would sit in water. So I think it's called its point of buoyancy, whatever that's called. That is usually the gravity plane. And what that means is all gravity is driven towards that place. So you could very well jump off the side of the ship in the gravity plane and sort of bob on the side of the ship on that gravity plane as if you were in water. And more than that, if you were able to jump down and plant your feet on the bottom of the hull of the ship, you could walk along the bottom of the ship without issue, as all gravity is sort of driven to that point of buoyancy. Okay. So that's a gravity plane. That's how that works. So what you would know is that nobody's going to go flying off the ship because all gravity is driven towards the plane.
Okay. So yeah,
you give them quite a star show.
I'll do a barrel roll then.
All right, you're on the ship and suddenly the helm sort of glows with a little power to one side. And you look out the window and see all of the streams of stars, very Star Wars-esque when they're entering hyperspeed. All the streams of stars sort of passing by all begin to go from passing by to sort of whirling around. And I think the Spelljammer's impressed, and she sort of looks out the window, kind of nods, goes, "Well done. You learn quick." You hear somewhere on the deck someone go, and she says, "Excellent. I don't know what to say. I'm impressed."
Honestly, hearing that guy throw up, all I'm wondering is if it tasted as good coming back up as it did going in.
I see. More of a cook than a pilot, perhaps.
Yes.
We'll make a Spelljammer out of you yet. Well, I guess it's your shift now, Vito. See you in a little while. And without another word, she nods to the other Spelljammer, goes, "It was nice to meet you." And the two of them just walk out and leave you in command of the pilot seat.
Now, how does that work with the oar? Because the oar is the one that sets the direction, right?
That's right. So she would tell you just maintain course, keep full on ahead. And she'll and over the course of the days she will sort of teach you a bit. And again, feel free to ask any questions at any time. Spelljammer is a whole new rule set. But essentially how it works is it's very much like Varsh has the map and compass, he's the navigator, and you're holding the wheel. So he comes to you with the route, and you follow the route. That's basically how it works. They're not magically connected in any way.
Okay, and there's no magical GPS line I'm following?
No, there's no magical GPS lane you're following. Varsh and the Or Sunquo are the GPS for all intents and purposes. They have the magical orrery, which is basically a 3-dimensional map of the entire system. And then they sort of look through and plot and find the destinations, and then they sort of give you a heading, and then you follow the heading.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how that works. Okay, and you just kind of sit there as you have this sudden anxiety come over you as you're like, "Oh, I'm all alone. The training wheels are off. I guess I'll just steer the ship." until they come back. And they don't come back for a while. You sit there for about an hour and maybe like a slight bit of anxiety, depending on your character, of course, where you just kind of hold the ship true to the course the best you can and maybe enjoy sort of, floating your consciousness through the ship and sort of seeing all the different ports and points where you see that this is a 3-deck hold. It's got 2 cargo holds. It's got, you go down and you see the brig where you see they've got 3 scrows sort of sitting in there. You see the various crew members going about their business, talking about things. You're very much a fly on the wall wherever you want to be at this point. You can see off of the ship as if you're standing on any point. And it's cool, if not terrifying, to be responsible for all these lives for a little while. And then she comes back and says, "Good job, we're not dead. You could officially say that your second piloting course, your second ship was not crashed. Congratulations."
So we're at cruise speed right now. What if I blow it into full speed?
Well, this is full speed.
Okay.
Cruise speed is more meaning that this is sort of fast travel, so to speak. You understand? But when we drop out of cruise speed, that usually means there's an anomaly in the way. Something weighing more than a ton has come into a mile of our ship, and we will automatically come out of cruise speed, slow down. And some of the better spelljammers can kind of sometimes know what it is they might be facing coming out of cruise speed. But that takes a long time to build that instinct.
Okay.
But you can drop us out of cruise speed at any time. Don't, but you can.
All right, fair.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job, Vito. And yeah, she'll continue to instruct you, and as the days go by, between your cooking, you'll get some Spelljammer lessons and learn a little bit more about the ship, and maybe the ship slows down to do a little astral fishing, and it allows you to sort of check out the more maneuverable side when you're like actually doing short range travel, what would be combat speed essentially. Okay. Is there anything Is there anything else anyone would like to do on this departing night, I should say? Nope. Okay. With that, Vito, you are given a hammock if you want it, but much like the other autognome on the ship, perhaps you prefer the deck. Yeah, you're given a place to sleep, and all of you may get a long rest. No travel mostly today, as the later half of the day was spent down at the things. So you guys just kind of flew up and away a little bit, so maybe it was like an hour of travel, but nothing significant towards your destination. But the captain will, actually, I think Varsh might tell you that you guys are, let's see, Onadia is 50 million miles. You guys travel 100 million miles a day. So you guys are going to get there in a half day. Toril is only a half day away. And you're not traveling to and from the very core of the solar system to the very outer rim of the solar system. Travels a lot faster. And lo and behold, you will be lucky. I'm going to roll to see if the ship moves at all, or if they just hang out around Selune. It does seem we will be adding a day to your journey. As you guys as you wake up, Varsh, you see that the Aura is talking with the captain, the Spelljammer, and they kind of nod, and they go back to work, and the captain says, they obviously don't know that we're on their tail. Well, they could, but they could be ghosts, who knows. But it seems that they have departed Selune and they're heading further outwards. So we'll keep pursuit. But no way to catch up with them until they exit cruise speed. So another day will go by. All will be well. We'll see if they slow down, and they do. They seem to make it to the outskirts of a nearby orbiting planet by the name of Carpri. And there they begin to slow down, and the captain sort of nods and says, all right. He sort of alerts the crew. He says, every man to their stations. We will be approaching soon. Spelljammers to the helm. Everyone else, man some arms. We're hunting a ghost now. Keep sharp, and we'll get out of this alive.
Bisan went straight to the manga now.
Fantastic. Bisan's on the manga now. Yeah, let's get where everybody is. We'll say that Versinia, at this point, who has received more tutelage than you, Vito, offers to go man a sort of like a loading station on one of the ballistas. Vito, where would you like to position yourself on the ship? There's a number of positions. You could be nearby the Spelljammer in case she needs you to take over. You could man a ballista. What would you like to do?
Let's see. I think it would probably be best to aid in the mangonel. Like help load.
Aid in the mangonel. Help load the mangonel. No problem. Very honorable duty. 5 actions are required to fire this thing, so it is very helpful. So Vito, you come over to do your best to help. You see the other autognome on the ship is moving around to be a bosun, sort of providing enhancements where possible. I think this Thrycreen is going to get stuck in the sails and is going to go join one of the ballista crews. Yeah, we're going to say the Commandant has a ballista. And what about you, Varsh? What are you up to?
I'll be on the Ori. I want to try and get some scans in.
Got it. And I think that works very well for Songpo, where she could like be next to the captain and take orders and sort of translate them over to you, where you can like actively perform scans and such. So you, Varsh, will be positioned by El Capitan, and our Or, who is beside the captain, sort of taking orders and suggestions, and you're over there sort of scanning for further information. Incredible. So Bisan's on the arms, Vito's loading the mangonel, and Varsh is on the Ori. So the Spelljammer has her backup, and you guys will all come out of flight speed. You see off in the distance, indeed, you see a ship. You see what some of you maybe have seen before. In fact, all of you have probably seen this version of a ship. You guys have all been spacefaring long enough. You see this ship that looks like a hammerhead shark. There's no other way to describe it. It has a sort of pointed nose, however, but from the side of it, it has these 2 long sidescapes. This ship is normally meant for hauling. It's sort of a heavy-duty hauling ship, but, you know, it can be meant for combat, as it does have, well, we'll say there's a role and whatnot for the loadout. But, you know, it is a capable hauling ship, able to defend itself, but there are definitely darker elements to it. But as it comes into the light of the sun, it's not like ethereal by any means. It seems to be a solid ship, though darkened, and it does turn, it begins to turn to sort of face you all and engage. And the captain says, "We have our ghost. Open fire!" And that is where we'll end our session. Next session, we will have a battle with a ghost ship.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice.
I'm
Fantastic.
so ready.
Incredible. How'd you like it, Vito?
It's pretty good, pretty informative. I feel like I slogged the game down just a little bit because I needed to be informed, but hopefully I'll make up for that in the future by being a good support character.
Not at all. This is a learning table. So, and there's plenty to learn here for Spelljammer. So, happy to have you aboard, and get a chance to meet Aaron next week. We'll need our bosun, and it should be a cool fight. Hammerheads they're cool ships.
I think when it comes to like understanding how I guess like D&D space works is whatever is most convenient.
That is fair.
Like unreasonably convenient. Which to find out the Astral Sea is think of where you want to go and you will go.
It's true. It's true.
Feywild rules.
Kind of Feywild rules, yeah. Whatever you want to happen will